May this video be the beacon that lights your way, offering insights and direction for your journey.
Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudevji, Mr. Francis Gurry, Director General, World Intellectual Property Organization, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Chief Scientist, World Health Organization, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this event to celebrate the 5th UN International Day of Yoga at this prestigious venue, the very first designed to be a platform to bring the world together in a spirit of cooperation and inclusion to address issues facing mankind. It was 100 years ago that the League of Nations was conceived, and these very premises were meant to host it. In 2014, the initiative of the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, himself a dedicated and long-standing practitioner of yoga, to have 21st June declared as an International Day of Yoga won the overwhelming endorsement of the international community. As the relevant UN General Assembly resolution notes, yoga provides a holistic approach to health and well-being, and that the wider dissemination of information about the benefits of practicing yoga would be beneficial for the health of the world population. Traditionally, we have celebrated International Yoga Day by practicing the asanas or physical postures contained in the common yoga protocol, which was developed by the Government of India in consultation with leading yoga experts and institutions in India. However, this year, we thought of broadening the approach to exploring the many other dimensions of yoga beyond the physical that are particularly relevant to the issues that the different stakeholders in International Geneva seek to address, those of global health and sustainable development, as well as peace and disarmament. Our engagement on these issues requires us all to work in a spirit of cooperation and compromise, making sure that no one is left behind. However, this spirit of inclusion at the international level cannot come about if it is not reflected in our individual lives and approaches. It is here that we can harness the power of yoga, the very essence of which is union both within and without. Hence the theme, Yoga, the Power of Inclusiveness. The Permanent Mission of India to the UN in Geneva is grateful that Sadhguru, India's leading yogi, mystic, and one of the 50 most influential persons in India, who has been conferred the country's second highest civilian award in 2017, consented to engage in this conversation on yoga. We could not have found two more distinguished personalities to engage with Sadhguru than Mr. Francis Gurry, who is not only the head of WIPO, but also an avid practitioner of yoga for over 3 decades, and Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who brings her extensive global health perspective and expertise to the conversation as the Chief Scientist of the World Health Organization, where traditional knowledge and complementary medicine are seeing renewed focus. As an emergent India plays a greater role on the world stage, it is with a positive intent and determination to contribute to the betterment of mankind. Yoga is one such contribution by India for the better health and greater happiness of people all over the world. Yoga has now truly become the intellectual property of mankind. I wish to thank you all for coming here today to be part of the 2019 International Day of Yoga celebrations, and hope you enjoy the conversation on yoga, the power of inclusiveness. Thank you very much.
युगरतोवा भोगरतोवा संगरतोवा संगविहीनः यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते ramate chittam yasya brahmane ramate chittam nandati nandati nandateva nandati nandati nandateva. Good evening to everyone. Well, I think the meaning has been put out there. The important thing is, people think yoga means I must be like a rubber band. Yoga does not demand any particular condition. Wherever you are, there is a next step in yoga. Whatever kind of person you are, whatever kind of mental, physical, emotional states you are, there is a next step from where you are. That's what yoga is about. The chant is just to acknowledge that. Thank you. Ma.
Thank you very much, Sadhguru. It's a great honor and privilege.
This is okay, microphone.
Thank you. I was wondering where the mic was and I thought there was some magic here.
You need a beard for that.
That's right. So it's indeed a great honor and privilege to be in conversation with you, Sadhguru. I would like to start with the theme of inclusiveness, since that's what the Yoga Day is about, and the theme, as our ambassador pointed out, and the Prime Minister in his message also talked about all the benefits that can come from practicing yoga. You know, science has shown that all human beings are basically the same. We share 99.9% of our DNA. So if a genome, the genes that make up our body, the DNA, if it were a book, then every person's book would contain the same paragraphs and chapters arranged in the same order. And each book would tell the same story. But my book may contain a spelling, a slightly different spelling on page 130 of the word color from your book. Or my book might have a typing error on one page, just one letter misspelt. So that's what science tells us. But we see…
A misspelled word is enough to fight about. Is enough reason to fight.
Exactly. So if we spell color with O-U-R or color with O-R, you know, it's a difference between the two sides of the Atlantic. But what we're seeing increasingly is the world being divided on the basis of ethnicity, of race, of religion, of color, of belief, of sexual orientation, disabilities. Some of this is conscious, some of this is not conscious. We see large number of people on the move now, refugees and migrants who have had to leave their homes and are living in camps for many months or years together. So when we talk about diversity, very often, you know, organizationally we think only about gender diversity, ethnic diversity. But don't you think that the real diversity the world must tackle is the fragmentation of knowledge to solve the problems that we have today, and the fragmentation of ethical belief systems to guide our moral choices? We see inequalities and iniquities increasing. You mentioned that we live in a world today where for the first time there is enough for everybody, and yet there are large numbers of people who don't have the very basic needs. If inclusiveness is the very basis of spirituality, how can we enable communities, especially our young people, to grow up with the belief of inclusiveness and the fact that diversity is important and we have to respect everybody in the community and provide everybody equal opportunities? Can yoga show us the way?
We are inclusive not by choice. We're inclusive by the nature of our existence. Every day, we are in this process every moment of our life. By eating, drinking, breathing and many other things, we are showing that we are inclusive. If we resist this, we will cease to exist. It's only by constant transaction with just about anything and everything that we are existing here. The complexity of what makes this creation, we are a consequence of that. But the magnanimity of creation has given us an individual experience. It's a tremendous thing. Though we are just a speck in the universe, still we have an individual experience. We sit here and experience like we're individuals. This is a phenomenal magnanimity from creation. But we have taken this individual experience rather too seriously. So seriously that we think we are a world by ourselves, each person. When your personal universe does not work very well, you will gather 10 people and then there is a battle. Endlessly it's going on. When we are 2 people, we will quarrel. When we are 10 people, we will fight. When we are 1,000,000 people, we have a war. It's the same thing. The mechanics is the same thing. Because we have taken our individual experience of life rather too seriously. In this cosmic space, this solar system itself is a speck, a tiny speck. In that tiny speck, planet Earth is a microspeck. In that microspeck, Geneva is a super microspeck. In that, you're a big man. Fortunately, ladies don't like to be referred to as big, so it's only one part of the population. A man wants to be a big man. So, this whole thing has happened to us simply because the boundaries of your individuality, you have taken it too seriously. If you pay on the surface, you're you, I'm me, 100%. This is my body, that's your body. No way to mix this up. This is my mind, that's your mind. Here and there, our minds may overlap, but anyway, this is my mind, that's your mind. But there is no such thing as my life and your life. The life that we are, this is a living cosmos. You captured some, I captured some. Now, what yoga means is, the boundaries that we have drawn with the instrument of body and mind, you consciously obliterate, so that when you sit here, your experience of life is not contained just to the limitations of your body or your thinking process or your emotional process. Your ability to experience life as a life, not as a body. Because if you experience this life as a body, this is me, that is you, there is no way to mix this. If you go as a mind or a thought process, this is me, that is you, no way to mix it up. But if you go as a life, fundamental life process, there is no distinction between this and that, not just between 2 human beings, between everything and everything, there is no distinction. So the word yoga means union, that you consciously obliterated the boundaries of your individuality. That is why you know a sense of union. We are anyway in union with the existence. The problem is, it's not in our experience because we are too caught up with our individual experience. The basis of your individual experience is a very flimsy thing, in the sense, right now, if you… Can we experiment with you? Hello? Take your right hand and touch your left hand and see. Is that you? Hello? Is that you? Touch the chair on which you're sitting, is that you? No. How do you know this? How do you know this is me, this is not me? Sensation, isn't it? Here there is sensation, here there is no sensation. So the way you are identifying what is me and what is not me is just that where there is your sensation, it's me. Where there is no sensation, it's not you. Right now there's a glass of water here, is that you? No. If you drink it, does it become you? What is it that you did? All you did was, you included this into the boundaries of your sensation. Isn't that the way you have grown? Hello? Isn't that the way you have grown? What was not you yesterday, has it become you today? So, anything that is within the boundaries of your sensation is experienced as myself. What yoga means is, you stretch the boundaries of your sensations. As there is a physical body, there is a sensory body. If your sensory body expands, let us say your sensory body became as large as this hall, then you will experience all these people as a part of yourself. As you experience the five fingers as yourself, you will experience all these people as yourself. Even for a moment, if you experience all these people as a part of yourself, after that, do I have to teach you morals, ethics, be good to this person, don't kill this person, don't harm this person? Would you need teachings? I'm asking you. This is what yoga means. It is not a teaching, it is not a philosophy, it is not an ideology, it is a technology of obliterating the boundaries of your individuality, because your individual nature is your psychological pattern that you have created. Nothing else says you're individual. If you don't understand what I'm saying, keep your mouth closed, hold your nose for 2 minutes, you will know you're not an individual.
I think what you say makes a lot of sense. And yet, you know, it's very intuitive the way you explain it, but it's not part of our educational system, it's not part of a thought process. More and more people are growing up in urban environments, far away from nature, far away from the experiences you need to feel one with the environment. And so we have to, I think, consciously promote this thought, and particularly I think for decision makers and policy makers, it's really important to have this philosophy. When they think about making a policy, what impact is it going to have? Not just on yourself or your neighbors, but on the wider community, on the water, on the land, on the forest, on the air. Unless we start thinking about each and every policy like that, I don't think, you know, we can appreciate really this oneness of being that you described.
See, if you take something as a value or a philosophy or an ideology, this will work when you and me sit on separate chairs like this. Suppose there is little space, 5 of us have to sit on the same chair, that's when the trouble begins, okay? You got your big chair, I got my big chair, no problem. But if 3-4 of us have to sit on that chair, now trouble begins. Well, you can have philosophies, love everybody. Can you? I'm asking you genuinely, please tell me. You will love selectively, isn't it? Love thy neighbor. Can you love your nasty neighbor? You are not, okay? It is nice to say these things because it helps to cool you a little bit. But when life puts you to test, it won't last. You've seen it again and again. You said it is not the nature of our education, 100%, that's where the problem is. The real problem is in the way we're educating our generations of people. The question is not about what, it is the way we're doing it. Right now, our education system is 100% dependent upon human intellect. We are treating intellect as the only dimension of intelligence existing in this human being. If I ask you a simple question, you must answer this question because I'm going to bless you. Do you want your intellect sharp or blunt? Okay. Those of you who didn't say anything, blessed. So I'll give you one more chance. Sharp or blunt? Sharp, for sure. Intellect should be sharp. Why? Because it's a cutting instrument. It's like a knife, it's like a scalpel. The sharper it is, the better it is. A knife is a good cutting instrument. If you want to dissect something, you need a razor-sharp knife. It's good to have it. But now you want to sew your clothes, but you do it with your knife. You will be in tatters. That's all that's happening to the world. Tell me, who is messing up the world? Educated people or uneducated people? Hello? Educated people. Because this is the nature of their education. They think they can fix everything with their intellect. They are not even acknowledging other dimensions of intelligence which exist in your system. When I say other dimensions of intelligence, there are… in yoga, we look at human mind as 16 dimensions. Let's not go there, it's a long thing. Simply, to come very simply to this, if you eat… it's mango season, though I am in Geneva, I can talk mangoes, right? Okay. Suppose you eat a mango, whether you're a man, woman or a cow or a goat, it goes into you and becomes who you are, isn't it? Hello? Mango doesn't look like you, taste like you, feel like you, but it goes into you and becomes like you in you. If you're a woman, it becomes a woman, if you're a man, it becomes a man, if you're a cow, it becomes a cow, if you're a goat, it becomes a goat. Very smart mango, you think? Hello? No, there is an intelligence here. In this one, whatever comes here, it knows it has to be made into this. If I take a mango in my hand and make it into a human being, who would you think I am? Very creator, isn't it? So the very source of creation is functioning within you. The problem with us is, we've been taught all kinds of things. Somebody said those who are deprived of love in their life, that they could not love anybody around them or nobody around them loved them, they said God is love. Somebody who's fallen under desperate conditions, they said God is compassion. But if you don't assume anything, if you are looking at creation, because you can only see the creation, you have never seen the creator, all right? If you look at the creation, if you look at a flower, if you look at a leaf, if you look at a blade of grass, intelligence, 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 isn't it? Phenomenal intelligence, yes or no? But nobody said God is intelligence. If you had said this one thing, we would have a much smarter world today. Because creation is the highest level of intelligence you have seen. You're just one little product of that, isn't it so? Hello? With all your brains, you still not figured out one atom in its entirety. We know how to use it, we know how to break it, we know how to fuse it, but we don't know what it is. Because the basis of creation is a phenomenal intelligence, beyond anything that you can imagine. So if creation is such intelligence, the source of creation must be a fantastic dimension of intelligence. But we said all kinds of things to manage social situations. But if you really pay attention to your own system, the way it is working, is it working because of you? Hello? Can you operate your kidneys, I'm asking? Can you make your liver go better? No. It is not happening because of you, it's happening in spite of you. Yes or no? There's a tremendous intelligence here. How come you think you can never access that? How come you think you can only function from the little bit of memory that you have gathered in the name of education, and you can only use that little bit of memory? Let's understand this. Because in the next 5–10 years, artificial intelligence is going to come big time. People who read 10 books became scholars. People who read one book became religious. People who read 1,000 books suddenly became so many things. by memory, isn't it? We are misunderstanding memory to be intelligence. This is the biggest mistake humanity has made. Memory is like this, my memory is my memory, your memory is your memory, isn't it? Isn't this the boundary? Hello? Isn't this the boundary? That my memory is like this, your memory is like that. This is the boundary. We have misunderstood memory as intelligence. So we are all become small islands of our own. We are identified with our knowledge. Whatever knowledge you have, if you have read the libraries on this planet, still compared to this cosmos, you are a minuscule knowledge, yes or no? Hello? Because many of you are doctor, I'm asking. I'm not trying to insult you, but is it not minuscule compared to the nature of this cosmos, of what's happening here? If you identify with your knowledge, you become that minuscule. Now you have your own world, I have my own world, but our ignorance is boundless. If you identify with your ignorance, we are all together. This is what yoga means. We are always identified with our ignorance, because our ignorance is limitless and our ignorance is seamless. Our ignorance does not separate you and me, because what I do not know, if you see I do not know, your intelligence is constantly alert. The moment you think I know, your intelligence sleeps. If you want to do an experiment, if I ask you to walk from there to there, you will walk, maybe being self-conscious, everybody's watching you. But if I turn off all the lights and make this pitch dark, if I ask you to walk from here to there, you become super alert, isn't it? Hello? Because the power of ignorance, you don't know where the next step is, suddenly everything in you is alert. This is the way you're supposed to live. But the moment you gather a certain amount of memory and identify with that, you sleep through your life. In India, the word that is used for enlightenment is always awakening. When you're already awake, how to awaken you? Because everybody is not awake to the same extent. You can become awake in various levels and dimensions. So the idea is to be fully awake, because your wakefulness is your life. Hello? If you're asleep, would you know that you're alive? Your wakefulness is your life. How awake is how rich and inclusive your life is. Right now, the problem is just this, we are identified with our own little memory pools. So every one of us is a world by ourselves.
I would like to take the theme of technology and artificial intelligence you mentioned a little further. See, previous industrial revolutions have liberated humankind from animal power, it has made mass production possible, and it has brought digital capabilities to billions of people. But the fourth industrial revolution, everyone believes is fundamentally different, because it is characterized by a range of new technologies that is able to cross the boundaries between the physical, the digital, and the biological worlds. And this impacts, therefore, all disciplines. It impacts our day-to-day life, it impacts economies, industries, and it has even started challenging us about what it means to be human. We have these mega computers that are able to beat humans at different tasks. So the resulting shifts and disruptions mean that we live in a time of great promise, but also great peril. The world has the potential to connect billions of more people to digital networks. We can dramatically improve the efficiency of organizations and even manage assets, our natural assets, in a way perhaps that we can minimize environmental damage or even try to repair some of the damage that we have done. But if organizations are unable to adapt, if governments fail to regulate new technologies and to capture for their benefits, if shifting power creates new security concerns, then inequalities may grow and societies get further fragmented. And perhaps what we could perhaps call a digital divide might then start one more divide that might start dividing societies. In fact, the WHO has been looking very seriously at this issue, and we're looking into not just the new technologies and the public health benefits, but what the potential risks could be, especially what are the ethical, social, moral, legal implications of new technologies like artificial intelligence, gene editing, gene-drive mosquitoes, and so on. So really the central question is, how can technologies enable a meaningful future for humankind? And what role should humans play in an increasingly machine-dominated world? How can values and ethics become part of the technological development process?
You know, I remember this situation probably in '70s, when in the Mumbai docks, which is called as the Mazagon docks, they installed the first gantry. And all the labor, the coolies who were there went on strike protesting. It was a major strike. Because till then, the vessels which came were unloaded by men carrying sacks out. Those days, most of the vessels were of a capacity of 25 to 30,000 tons were the largest vessels. Today, most vessels are over 100,000 and even 250,000 tons kind of vessels. So they were taking anywhere between 26 to 28 days to unload one ship. And they went on strike because what are we supposed to do? What do we do with our muscle? That's a question. So man's muscle became irrelevant because the machine came. To all the ladies, I want you to understand, all of you are here today not because there's been a serious evolution in human consciousness, simply because of technology, that man's muscle does not determine how big or small you are. If muscle determined who should rule this place, still situations would be still the same. So from muscle to machine we shifted. Now again a time is coming, people who have a certain amount of memory, which they call as education, scholarship or religiosity or whatever, they're all feeling threatened. The strange thing is, they're inviting me to all kinds of artificial intelligence conferences. Say, why are you inviting me? I'm not artificial. They're saying, no, but if this comes, what'll happen? We'll lose our jobs. I said, that's fantastic. If all of you lose your jobs, it's fantastic. Because even when I went to school, I just thought, somebody just read a book a few years ahead of me. How come they're acting so superior? They just read a book ahead of me, a few years ahead, that's all. If I had come 15, 20 years ahead, I would have also read the damn book. So just by holding some memory in your mind, we've been acting big, just like muscular people were acting big at one time. They were the kings. If you had big muscles, you became a king at one time. Today, we will put you out there at the gate. So the same thing will happen now in a different way. Your memory will be of no value. It's a great time, because today my phone has 600 GB memory, it can do 10 PhDs a day. It has enough knowledge to do its own thing. So these days are coming, this is fantastic. Why do we fear technology? See, death is a social thing. It is not existentially right to say death, because a certain life, like we were talking about bubbles as an analogy, let's continue that bubble. So right now you've blown that big bubble. This bubble has a material, the soap. Depending upon the soap quality, the tenacity of the bubble and how long it lasts is determined by the type of soap and the quality of soap and whatever. So this soap or this structure for this is what we are traditionally referring to as karma. What karma means is accumulated memory which is giving us a shape and a form. So as long as this karmic memory is there, it will contain this life inside. So right now, let's say you were born as this big bubble, but this time around you really made some efforts and made this into this big bubble, possible. So suppose now, let me not take you as an example, let's say I die, okay? It's easy for me to die So if I die right now, well, I leave the body here because the body is just what we have collected from this planet, it has to go back. It's just a material that you picked up to walk through this planet, to do activity in this planet, but the life that you are is still contained in your karmic bubble. Life itself is not yours. That we are referring to as consciousness or life is not yours, it is always there, but you have captured this much. Depending upon how much life you capture, see, it is not just about the data, it's not about the intelligence. Depending upon how much life you capture, accordingly the significance of your life will be determined by that. When I say significance, you as a life, not socially significant, not significant in the world, that is just a consequence. In certain times, people may recognize that significance, in another time they may not recognize. If you came here 1,000 years ago and you say, I'm a neurologist, they will say, they'll just dismiss you, can you wield a sword or not? That's all they would ask you in Brussels, all right? If you cannot, you're out. So I'm saying today in 21st century, you being a neurologist is important because there is a situation, it's a consequence of time. So let's not take that activity as the basis. But the profoundness of your experience is determined by how much life you have captured, how significant you feel when you sit here, not in the context of society, not with reference to somebody else, not comparing myself to somebody and saying I'm bigger than somebody. But when you simply sit here, this is why closing eyes is so important. When you close your eyes, you shut off the world. When you sit here, what is the significance of your existence? This is determined by how much life you capture. So the entire yogic system or one important dimension of yogic system is to see how I capture more life into this one, so that if I sit here, this is a very significant life. Whether others will understand this significance, whether the significance will find expression in the world or not, these are subject to variety of outside realities. But in your experience, you are phenomenally significant because you captured such an immense possibility of life. So once this happens, now it is held together by this karmic bubble, or let us say, it's a kind of a software. Most of the software may be gathered unconsciously, but it is a certain kind of software which holds this together. Even if we die, the body gets left here, discerning mind goes with the body, rest of the information, and this is already there. But now because there is no discerning mind, this bubble cannot go where it wants to go. Now, it will just go by its tendencies. It's very beautifully described. In the yogic culture, we call these tendencies as vasanas. The word vasana literally means smell. So it depends what kind of smell it has. Accordingly, it gets drawn to certain things, accordingly it will draw certain things towards itself, depending upon how vibrant this karma is, accordingly it stays in a limbo for that kind of period. If it is already become very feeble, it will try to find another form, physical form. If it is not become feeble, it exists by itself for a certain period of time. When I say period of time, when we are in the body, see right now, for you to know how long we've been sitting here, you don't have to look at your watch. You just ask your lower back, it will tell you how long you've been sitting here. Or you ask your urinary bladder, it'll tell you how long you've been sitting here. So body is keeping time. Time is a concern for us only because we have a physical body. If we did not have a physical body, we can sit here for 10,000 years, there's no problem. So once you don't have a physical body, the time-space experience is not the same, but still the experience of being pleasant or unpleasant is still there. There's a whole dimension to this. I think Bala, you must send Stephen the death book. I just published a book on death, it's been an 8-year work and it's just come out, and I'll ask Bala to send it to you, or we can send it from UK probably.
Thank you.
Stephen, so couple of questions to Sadhguru, right? So what determines…
I hope I have not said something very unscientific that keeps you…
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did.
That was the
That's why
idea.
I'm here.
That was the idea.
What determines how much life you capture, Sadhguru?
One thing is, you must have enough software, that means you must have enough karma. So most of the time, people are trying to avoid karma. When I say avoid karma, people are trying to minimize their imprints in life in so many ways as to what they take in. Suppose, let's say I don't like you, Bala, that's not a fact, I'm just telling you as an example. Suppose I really don't like you, I just can't stand you. So what will I do? I will avoid you. This means what? I'm trying to avoid some nasty impressions that may come upon me if I meet you. Now you're avoiding karmic material. So this is why in yoga we say, somebody comes and says, I don't like this person, then I put those two people in the same department so that every day they build some karma and learn to transcend that. This is not a social process. There is an internal process to this, that you're taking in imprints but not reacting to it, because your experience becomes beautiful or nasty depending upon how you react to it. So first and most fundamental training that you need to go through is, you learn to respond, not react. Reaction is instinctive, reaction is based on past memory and conclusions that we have made. Response is happening out of your conscious response right now. So you learn to respond, not react. Once you learn to respond and not react, you will take a tremendous amount of material because you have no hesitation about anything for that matter. Once you have so much karmic substance, now you can blow a big bubble. You need good soap to make a big bubble, not air. There's no dearth for air, there's a whole bubble of atmosphere out here. But what you need is a certain tenacious soap which will blow a big bubble for you. Otherwise, if you have no, I don't want to name any brand, some brand came to my mind. If you have a bad soap, only this big bubble will come. If you try to make this, it'll go put. So if you want to blow a big bubble, what is needed is not air, because air is anyway there. At least in the context of who we are, it is a limitless amount of air. It is not really limitless, but still it is limitless from the context of our lungs at least, it's quite limitless. So there is limitless amount of air, there is limitless amount of life and consciousness in the universe, but the question is, do you have the necessary quality soap to blow it big and hold it? So, you don't avoid anything when something outside of you does not determine the nature of your experience, that is when you're willing to take on everything. When something outside of you makes you either happy or unhappy, you will try to choose only those things which give you pleasant experiences, those things which give you unpleasant experiences you will try to shun. So if you really look at in the world, most people, if you look at people's experiences in the world, most people can't stand almost the entire humanity. Their neighbor means must stop there only. Friend means still here, but he must stop here. If he crosses this line, there will be trouble. Well, a spouse means here, if they cross that, there will be trouble. A child means here, but if he crosses that, that also will be trouble. I'm saying for everybody there is a boundary. If they cross that boundary, there is trouble. So in a way, if you really look at it, actually nobody is 100% okay with anybody. So this is the fundamental thing we need to change. People are trying to teach this in roundabout ways, they're saying you must love everybody, you tried, it doesn't work. People say you must be compassionate, be this, be that. All you're trying to do is that you are not in a state of reaction, but you will consciously respond. Or in other words, you want to make your experience of life so pleasant within yourself, no matter who comes, how nasty they are, it will not cause nasty experiences within you. Once you have this insurance that somebody else and something else, either a person or a situation, cannot soar the experience of who you are, only then you're truly open to every kind of experience. Now you have a super soap. you can blow a very big bubble.
But can I ask something?
Yes, sir.
Is that so? You would advise somehow that meditation can help us blow a bigger bubble?
See, once again, this is a very vague term in English language. When you say meditation, if somebody sits here with eyes closed, in English language we say he's meditating. But with eyes closed, we can do many things. We can do japa, tapa, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, shunya, samyama, or you may just, as you know, in the universities, they have mastered the art of sleeping in vertical postures. No, no, not in your class, no. So they may be horizontal in your programs.
So it's true that then it becomes… the term meditation becomes kind of meaningless, is what you say, because it stands for…
It is not specific, it's generally saying something. So, let us say you're chanting something. People say that's also meditation. No, that's called japa. Japa, if you do it in another form, the same chanting, it's called tapa, because tapa is used to generate heat in the body. What you were talking about Tibetan monks, most of them are doing tapa because they're using it in a certain way to generate heat in the system, because if you generate a certain kind of prana or life energy in a certain form which is called as samat prana, if you generate that, body generates enormous amount of heat. And this heat is not just as temperature, it's called ushna. It activates a certain level of perception, it makes you very healthy, it will allow you to live with very minimal amount of food and water. All these capabilities will come because your samat prana or samana prana is high. That is what generally they are trying to do, they are trying to do tapa. So that is… you want to call that meditation? No, it is tapa. If you do the same thing with a different tilt to it, it becomes japa. If you do dharana, that means you're focused on something, you're concentrating on something, that's called dharana. So if there is you and there is something else, an object, and you're very well focused and you and the object are connected, that means it is dharana. So you are so focused, one of you disappeared, either you disappeared or the object of focus disappeared. It is either just the object or just you, it is merged into one in your experience. Then we call this dhyana. Suppose both disappeared, the observer and that which is observed both disappeared and there's an explosion of energy, this we called as dhyana. Samadhi is called something else and… that is called samadhi. And further samyama, there are various other aspects like this, so I don't want to go into all that stuff. But fundamentally, the word meditation is not saying anything particular. So if we have to put a definition to that, what I would say is, meditation is a certain quality, it is not an act. It is not an act that you perform. It's like fragrance of a flower. The fragrance is a consequence, but because today the world humanity has become so goal-oriented, they want the consequence. They're always aiming towards the consequence. No, you cannot create the consequence. If you do the process properly, consequence happens. Right now, we have eaten well, we are breathing and everything is fine, so life is happening. In a way, our experience of life is a consequence. We are alive because of a consequence of various processes that we are doing right. If you do any of those things wrong, the consequence of experience of life will not be there. So similarly, meditation is a consequence, it is a quality, it cannot be done, but it can be made to happen. If you cultivate your body, if you cultivate your thought process, if you cultivate your emotion and your energies to a certain level of maturity, you become meditative. It is not like in the morning, evening you do meditate, not like that. You become meditative as a quality, you carry it with you. So, if we want to further technically define this, essentially I would say, because I'm assuming meditation means dhyana, it is an assumption, because somewhere you have to fix it, otherwise it is all over the place. If you call it as dhyana, that means if you sit here, in your experience clearly, the body is here, Your mind is here, what is you is somewhere else. These three clear, distinct identities. That means there is a distinct separation or space between what is you and what you have gathered in your life. Once this space is there, this is the end of suffering. Because there are only two kinds of suffering in human life, physical suffering and mental suffering. Once there is a distance between you and the body, between you and the mind, this is the end of suffering. Once there is no fear of suffering, that is when you will naturally access what we are referring to as consciousness or chitta, because now you have no fear of suffering. Once there is no fear of suffering, you are willing to climb any peak. It's only the fear of suffering which curtails a human being. Once this possibility of suffering is taken away from you, you would also like to go and see how hell looks, what hell looks like, because anyway you cannot suffer. Actually, Gautama said this. When people were all talking about going to heaven, attaining to this, he said, you say in heaven everything is wonderful, what will I do there? In hell everybody is suffering, let me go there and see what I can do, because anyway I cannot suffer. So once there is no fear of suffering, you walk full stride in your life. Otherwise, no matter how adventurous people think they are only half a step all the time, because the fear of suffering is always lurking in their minds.
And Sadhguru, do you think that the patients I see in my consultation who are suffering, they have migraine, headaches, anxiety, depression, that they could benefit from meditation, and as now is very popular in Western countries, this mindfulness techniques?
They're already suffering because their minds are too full. They need to come to some sense of abandon, you know. So, each person may be in different level of development, it's not like a general prescription I can make. But becoming meditative, will it help? Absolutely. But can you make them meditative in a clinic? I doubt that. Because you can't suddenly make them meditative. Some people may be ready for it and it may happen. But can you make everybody meditative? A doctor can make somebody meditative with just a few instructions? No, because it will need a certain amount of induction. They have all the ingredients for it to happen, but still it doesn't happen because there's no induction. So there needs to be some charge for them to, get into that place. Somebody may be ready for japa, somebody may be ready for tapa, somebody may be ready for dhyana, dharana. This is an evaluation that has to be made for each individual. If suppose I met somebody, they are 20 years of age, I may teach them something. The same person, he practiced for 3-4 years, he was feeling great and then he gave it up for whatever reasons. Now at 40 years of age, he comes. Now I will teach him something totally different because he's not the same person anymore. He may think he is the same person, but he is not the same person anymore because everything has changed. His perception, his experiences, his accumulations, everything have changed. So accordingly, one has to do this. This has always been the traditional significance of having a live guru so that he will mix the right cocktail for you, otherwise there's no punch.
Thank you. I will go do my yoga.
Don't tell me now.
There's been a very fascinating discussion. I can go on and on. I have so many burning questions, but I think it's been more than an hour and a half. So I'd like to wrap up. At least one thing I'd like to see Stephen do is at least bring in the discussion about using the term wakefulness as a way of different levels of wakefulness in your practice and in neurology world, and then leave consciousness out completely. And that way probably you can explain so many things in your lab and what you're finding and how you've been successful in restoring some of the comatose patients back to their normal lives. So thank you so much for doing your work and also being open to explore this aspect with Sadhguru and us. It's just, there's so much more. He's an ocean by himself.
As your lab machines improve, one day you may be able to raise the dead, because it's just another level of wakefulness and sleep.
Like my favorite philosopher says, James Bond, never say never.
I didn't think you're English, huh?
Married to a Canadian psychologist.
After the Brexit, you must change your philosopher, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bala, thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss any new content and invite your friends to join us on this learning adventure.